Hello, friends, and welcome to your midweek edition of the Kings of Anglia Ipswich Town podcast. A brilliant team flooded with excellent players. That's not our latest five-star iTunes review, friends, although you can be forgiven for thinking that. It is, in fact, the words of Cambridge United boss Mark Bonner talking about Ipswich Town after his side were put to the sword 3-0 at Portman Road on Tuesday night. It's all going rather well, isn't it? And we are here to talk about it. I've got two of my fellow Kings with me today. Andy Hutchwarren is actually currently in Europe, tying up loose ends for the Milker Cup. Mike Bacon, who is currently on Ipswich Town duty, is actually off today. So you've got the best two Kings, let's be honest. The Doctor, Stuart Watson, wearing a shirt today, Stu. Very smart. I appreciate the sartorial approach.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Good. You okay?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, not too bad.
Are you missing Hutchie?
Always.
That's not what you said earlier. The prospect, the bearded one, the one who can't drive yet. Roscoe, how are you?
I'm very well. I feel like I should have dressed up nicely today, but as you know, I just donned the boys Adidas, don't I? The lads.
Are you yet to sign that actual sponsorship deal with Adidas? Because I feel like you now have the profile with which you could carry off a sponsored clothing brand.
Not yet, but I do have contacts, so yeah, watch this space.
Is there anything particularly you'd like Adidas to make for you? What would you most like to wear as a brand?
I just like the shirts, the fitting. I just like that. I don't know what. I like the original Adidas. Like right now, I'm wearing the modern Adidas, but where the logo, the modern logo. I haven't got something next to me. I should have something next to me, but I don't know. I like the original stuff, more the old school stuff, because I just think it looks more casual. This looks more, it's sporty. You're going out for a run. That you can wear it on all occasions, in my opinion.
Okay, there you go, Adidas. That's what we want from Roscoe for the first sponsored branded Roscoe Adidas link up. Friends, Ipswich Town backed up their biggest win of the season on Saturday, 3-2 against Portsmouth, with another win on Tuesday night against Cambridge United, 3-0. The scoreline makes it sound, by the sound of it, easier than it was. In terms of peek behind the curtain time, boys, our deadlines on match days are always quite tight. Even tighter on Tuesday night because kickoff was put back to 8 o'clock. And so at about 65 minutes, I'd started writing a back page for the Star saying frustrating 0-0 draw. And then the subs came on and it all changed. Stewie, your thoughts?
Ground them down. Sheer perseverance, that was that game. And part of you's thinking, here we go, deja vu. Go back to April when Ipswich had just beat Plymouth. Morale and mood was at an all-time high, and that's it. We're going, momentum's with us. We're going to get in the playoffs. And then a week later, Cambridge came, spoiled the party, spoiled the game, got a 1-0 win. And we reached 70 minutes in this game, and it was 0-0. And Cambridge sat deep. They defended. They were organised. And this isn't being smart with hindsight. I felt comfortable. I felt confident that breakthrough was going to come. It felt like a matter of when, not if. The 5 subs thing obviously has really helped in these sort of games this season. But unlike that game back in April where I thought Ipswich were off it, they were a bit passive, they were sloppy, I couldn't really fault how Ipswich were playing. I thought they moved Cambridge from side to side. I thought their approach was quite sensible. There are times I'm sure people were going, come on, move the ball a bit quicker, try and show a bit more. But McKenna summed it up afterwards that there has to be a balance in terms of how you grind teams like that down. Don't get frustrated. Don't try and force things and leave yourself open to the counter-attack. And I thought Ipswich just chipped away, knocked on the door. And it was pretty clear that Cambridge weren't going to be able to keep up that sort of deep line of defence all game. And eventually that pressure with the aid of the substitutions told. And again, another fully deserved victory for Ipswich Town.
Rossi, I've got to say, the game day post-match on Tuesday, I think was my favourite of the season so far. There's some really good points made by the KOA army. And I get the feeling that part of that kind of jubilation was because there was at least some of them were starting to think, as was I, that it was going to be 0-0 or even worse, Cambridge were going to shithouse another 1-0 win somehow.
Yeah.
How is it for you, and how are is that a fair assessment, do you think, for the fans?
Yeah, I was also feeling that way because Town was huffing and puffing, and you just felt like, could this be the day where they couldn't get past that team they want to beat, and they did, thankfully, and lots of happy faces. I was buzzing. You saw it on the video. I was buzzing around.
Yeah,
for the rest of that night, really, even in the early hours, editing videos. But now this team is different, isn't it? The old Town would have lost or drawn or whatever. But this team, another box tick to tick. Cambridge, we didn't beat them last year, and we didn't just beat them 1-0. We beat them 3-0, and a comfortable win. Some good goals scored. But yeah, I think fans are feeling, could this be the year? Could it be the year? We'll see.
Before we get onto that, Stewie, Kyle Edwards, first goal for Ipswich Town. Did he mean it?
No, of course he didn't. Look,
are you sure?
I'm absolutely sure that was a cross. You could tell from his reaction that was a cross all day long. I think Shawnee Aluko, Old Habits Die Hard, was on co-coms on iFollow. I listened back to a bit of that, and he called it straight away. That was a cross. You could tell from his reaction. McKenna was asked afterwards, "What's Carl saying about his first goal?" And Carl says no comment, and I think I'll stick to that as well. So, a slice of luck there. No doubt about it. A slice of luck with both the goals, the opening goals for Ipswich, obviously with the deflection that comes off the trailing heel of a defender to loop up over the goalkeeper. But Ipswich, you make your own luck in this game. And I think that was Mark Bonner, who I thought spoke really articulately after the game. Impressive young manager there. I think is going on to bigger things in the game. He just said, look, that sort of fortune for their goals came as a result of sustained pressure. And in the end, we succumbed to that pressure. But it was a cross for Kyle Edwards first, but nothing fluky about his second. Real desire to get on the end of that ball in the box. He's come from the other side of the defender, blind side, and then a lovely outside of the boot finish under pressure. And as soon as you said the name Kyle Edwards at the start there, we all smiled. I noticed that. And you can just, I think I said it in the post-Pompey podcast, you can feel the collective goodwill and people just rooting for Kyle Edwards. He's got that infectious smile. It's not happened for him at Ipswich Town thus far, but we said after the game at Portsmouth, is this his time to shine? Is the door now open for him? We hope so. Now there's just a few things starting to fall in place for him. He's got a little way to go to really sort of establish himself, but he's gone from sort of forgotten man to very much part of the rotation now. He's got a little bit more to do to make himself kind of established first team starter. But yeah, that was a really nice moment. You could just see from the celebrations from the players, from the crowd, how much everyone really enjoyed seeing Kyle Edwards get his goals.
What was the dance? I've seen the pictures of the dance, but on the highlights, they cut away before you actually saw the dance. What was the dance, Roscoe, as our resident music expert?
I don't know the exact wording of the dance, but I was right in front of it. I had great view of it. Of course, I think Kyle Edwards is a bit shy because I don't think he wanted to celebrate, but Lee Evans just chucked him in front of the crowd for him to, appreciate the fans and just for the fans to appreciate him. But yeah, he danced with Tyrese John Jules, and it's just a nice little moment, as Stu said. He's a very likable character. His smile is just contagious in it. I got a picture of him, warming up with KJ, Kane Jackson, Tyrese John Jules, and even then he's smiling, even on the subs bench. But no, I like when players just bring out their personality and dance and celebrate. Goal. Of course, that was he's celebrating his second goal. But yeah, I don't know the exact dance, the word of it, but it was a good dance.
He is. He seems to be, and you guys will know better than I will. You've probably spoken to Carl. He seems to be joy personified. Like, he always seems to be smiling, and it's really hard, or it's easy rather, to root for guys like that, isn't it? That kind of bring that joy and good vibes to everything they do. Stewie, What's sorry, mate?
I would call it a samba shuffle if we're gonna put
Okay.
something on that. Just a little, him and thing. You're right about him being quite shy and bashful. I think Connor Chaplin then at the full-time whistle had to give him an encouraging push to go and sort of soak up the acclaim of the North Stand. And I don't know Kyle Edwards. I've only spoken to him a few times through this job, but he seems to have this lovely sort of childlike joy for the game still, both in the way he plays. Just get me a ball and I just want to beat people. I want to do skill. I want to bring joy to the people that watch football. He talked about watching those Jogger Benito Nike TV adverts as a kid and just wanting to go and copy Ronaldinho and stuff. And off the pitch, he looks like quite a happy, bubbly character. But I would imagine, like a lot of us in life, underneath that, he's probably had some struggles in the last year because he's a young man who hasn't been able to do that thing that brings him joy, and that's play football. There's been a few reasons for that. One being the thigh injury that came and ended his season in February. The other being new manager comes along, plays a different system. Ipswich playing with the 2 number 10s left him without a real natural position in the team. And I'm sure at his sort of lowest moments, he's had some doubts about where his career's going. I had a little look. He's only made 11 league starts for Ipswich, and he's only made 31 league starts in his entire career. And he's 24 years of age now. He's not a kid. So I'm sure sort of at home, away from everyone else, he's probably thinking, have I made right choices? Where am I going here? But to have kept his head down and clearly sort of trained well and kept himself in a position to go and take his chance when it's come along. As you say, it's impossible not to root for somebody like that. So I'm sure McKenna will be wanting more, keeping his feet on the ground and all that sort of stuff. The vibe I'm getting from the club is we're not going to suddenly be pushing Carl forward to do press or media at the moment because we need to keep everybody grounded around this one. But it's just makes you smile, doesn't it, when someone like that has a night like they did on Tuesday.
It does indeed. I wrote a piece yesterday about whether or not he meant it, just rounding up what people had said, and essentially an excuse to use that extraordinary angle filmed from the crowd of the shot. And it kind of, if you've not seen it, do go and watch it. It's on our website. I think it's a fan called Louis filmed it. So the ball bends out and then it almost seems to take on a life of its own, kind of takes off again to go over the keeper from this angle. It's absolutely extraordinary. I did a little poll just to amuse myself, saying, asking fans if he meant it or not. He meant this, 250 or so votes. He meant it, 39%. He did not mean it, 25%. And I don't care Heath came second with 36%, which I believe the people have spoken there. Obviously, it doesn't matter. They all count. In terms of other players, Stewie, Dominic Ball came in, started for Lee Evans in this one. Maybe a bit of a shock. How did he do?
Yeah, he's just a solid championship player, isn't he? And I think it was quite prudent. When you first saw that team sheet, you thought, oh, it's a surprise because Morsey and Evans are so nailed in midfield at the moment, both in form. But you look at it and you think Sam Morsey's one booking away from a suspension. So you probably want to get Dominic Ball up to speed. And he's a good player as well. You've signed him for a reason. And I'm sure he's been training the same way that Sam Morsey trains, from what I know of Dominic Ball, and making sure the manager knows that he's ready and wanting to play. And Lee Evans, lest we not forget, came into this season off the back of a sort of a medium-term knee injury, and he's been playing really, really well. You're probably looking at Saturday, Tuesday. Maybe now's the time just to dip him out, give him a little bit of a rest. And Dom Ball was everything we've kind of heard about Dom Ball, just really solid. He landed on loose balls. He was competitive. He looked to play forwards whenever he got the ball. But there was no doubt that when Lee Evans came on, Ipswich had a different dimension. His range of passing is not matched by anyone in that squad. I think Evans had a role in... certainly it was his forward pass that led to the opener. I think he had a hand in the build-up for at least one of the others as well. So, we'll probably talk about the subs in a bit more detail now. But when Ipswich can turn to the bench the way they do in these sort of games, we talk about Ipswich being a better team than they were last year. I think the 5 subs rule is really helping in these sort of games that were kind of teams were able to hang on against them with that sort of spoiling tactics this year, when McKenna can kind of throw caution to the wind and make triple substitutions, knowing it doesn't matter if there's an injury or anything further down the line because he's got more subs to call on, makes all the difference.
Before we get to the subs, obviously Tyrese John-Jules came on, scored. It was a bit of a role reversal, not directly with what happened at the weekend and Freddie Ladapo. I was taken with what you said in your Stu Says Though, Stu, in terms of Ladapo. You said you thought it was his best game so far. McKenna said something similar after the game, didn't he? Do you want to just talk about Freddie a little bit?
Yeah, he'd have been right up there in terms of man of the match calls for me. Maybe even my choice, because he worked so hard, and that is such a that could be a really frustrating game for a striker like him, who's maybe not hit quite the rich vein of goal scoring form that he'd have wanted. And he spoke after the Portsmouth game about having sleepless nights about his start to life at Ipswich. And when a team is sitting so deep like that and there's so little space for you to work in, it would have been easy for him to have got frustrated and lost his head. But he worked so hard for the team. There's a couple of times he came charging back and won the ball back, sort of 40 yards from goal, and the crowd really responded to that. He was always surrounded by 2 or 3 Cambridge players, but strong, backed into people, came out with the ball, kept Ipswich possession. Ran in behind, ran the channels as well. I thought he had a really good game, and I thought he helped sort of butter up the Cambridge defence in time for others to come on and take advantage. And as you say, in roles reversed from the weekend when John-Jules had done the same, and Freddie kind of made them, took advantage of that and scored with his first touch. This time it was the other way round, and I thought he laid a lot of the groundwork for what followed in those last 20 minutes.
Yeah, Marcus Harness said something, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago about how the subs rule means that the players know they can go. If you start, you go out and you literally go balls to the wall, full bore for 60 minutes. And then someone then can come on and equally fresh go full bore for the final 30. So it gives Town a huge advantage. And clearly that's counting so far. Roscoe, talk to me about other things you liked on the night. Players.
Yes, there's a lot of players to pick out from, really, which is good to hear. Do you know what? George Emerson,
Yep,
he's back, baby. He had a fantastic game on Tuesday night, and that's good to see. I know he's had not the best of starts this season, a few mistakes here and there, but no, I think he was back to his best. I think the back three, once again, Janoy, and he's solid, reliable. Wolford also had a good game as well, and that's what is great to see. Just those three doing it well. Definitely. I feel sorry. I saw Cameron Burgess on the sidelines. You just feel like, he was in great form. Now Emerson's back in form. It's like, how is he going to get back into this team now? Because we've got 3 really good defenders in that role. And yeah, at the moment, Wes Burns, he's the cover star for us at the moment, but he was once again, not really. He didn't really, for me, he wasn't the standout player because Kyle Edwards took all the headlines. But no, I think the one man to talk about is George Emerson, because it's just good to see him back in form.
Is Cameron Burgess wearing a mask or anything?
No, give me a second. Continue speaking, and I'll flash a picture up, and this is what he looks like at the moment. It's not too bad, actually. Carry on.
Let me ask you.
Imagine being a League One left back where you've faced Wes Burns for 70 minutes, and then Ipswich can go and then just replace him with Kyle Edwards. Or another day, it might be Caden Jackson, probably the quickest player in the league. Or
it's almost unfair, isn't it? It must be incredibly demoralising.
Yeah, there was talk in the summer about how this 5 subs rule was going to benefit the bigger clubs, and Kieran McKenna's kind of come back on that was, well, it's equal for everybody, and the fear was that maybe the lesser clubs, and this is not being disrespectful, but it is a division of 2 halves now. That's another thing Mark Bonnell was talking about. It's clearly a division of 2 halves, and I think most clubs know where they're at in that pecking order and what they've got to do to try and eke out points. But that sort of bottom half stable of teams, would they be able to use the substitutions to their effect to time waste and run down the clock and stuff like that? But it's clearly of benefit to clubs like Ipswich and others that have got that deeper squad. In those games, there's only so long that you can play that sort of defensive tactic and hold out. And then if you can make those like-for-like quality substitutions, then hopefully that pressure is going to tell. And we'll come on to Morecambe in a bit, but I think we could have a very similar type of game on Saturday.
Let me ask you about Kyle Edwards then, Stu, because the last couple of games he's made a big difference. We spoke last season about how, he was the breakout star of last season, wasn't he? We were sitting here saying, how have they signed him in League One? If he carries on playing like he is and having the impact that he has, although he's clearly massively suited to that kind of super sub, exactly as you say, come on and destroy tiring defences, where could you see him fitting in the starting 11? Because that's going to be the push before long. If he carries on playing like he is, he's got to start.
I think he's got more chance now that Ross mentioned a back three earlier. It's looking more and more like a back four to me. It's very fluid. It's very hybrid. We've talked about this loads on this podcast, but it is looking. I've started calling it a 4-2-3-1 now. So I think, left or right of that three in support of the striker is where he'd play. McKenna, he came on obviously for Burns on the right at the weekend. He played on the left when he came on against Portsmouth, having replaced sort of Harness. So I think he can play either of those roles. McKenna, from very early on, talked about him being the sort of Burns backup and sees him more of a right-sider, despite the fact he's obviously left-footed. Personally, I think he's a kind of a rotation with Harness type situation. There'll be games where Harness kind of plays tucked in on the left, and there'll be games where you might want a bit more natural width, and that's when Kyle Edwards can kind of come in for Harness and play a little bit wider on that left-hand side. But his versatility is going to be very useful for Ipswich, and it makes me feel him coming back into the picture like this makes me feel a little bit better. Different players, of course, but a little bit better about Aluko's kind of absence. And just starting to think they're a little bit thin in that final third, and then up steps Kyle Edwards, which is great to see.
Shawnee Aluko is really good on comms, by the way, from the highlights. Roscoe, have you got this picture of Cameron Burgess before we move on?
I do.
Okay, so he's got like a black eye, hasn't he? He certainly looks as if his face has taken a little bit of a...
Quite swollen there still, yeah.
Quite swollen. I bet that's sore. It's a sore one, and there's Greg Lee next to him as well. Anything else to mention? Because I want to put something to you, Stu, that you put right at the end of Stu Says, and it touches on what Ross started to talk about at the start of this chat. You wrote, "Enjoy the ride, people. Something special is brewing." Now, with this win, Ipswich Town now have stretched the gap. They're still in second because of a late winner by Plymouth. They've stretched the gap to third. I think it's 4 points, isn't it? Off the top of my head. Sheffield Wednesday obviously lost to Plymouth. So the gap is starting to grow, the top two. Stewie, we're 11? Is it 11 games in? 12 games in? Something like that?
12, yeah.
But you say something special starting to brew. Talk to me more about that.
Well, it's been brewing for a while, hasn't it? And I think we've all felt it, and the attendances show that, don't they? I'll always take my lead from crowds. People know what they're seeing. People know if something good's happening in front of their eyes, and they know if something's drifting and stale and stagnant. And that's why we saw the attendances drop 1,000 year on year for so long, and that's why we're suddenly seeing 26, 27, 28,000 back inside Pullman Road now. You have to feel that what you're seeing gives you hope, and there's plenty of that on and off the pitch at the moment. I made the comparison with that they're on exactly the same points at this stage of the season as they were in the first season after relegation under Paul Lambert. And I remember at the time when we had these conversations, the great thing is they've not even hit top gear yet. And we were using that as the positive. They're getting all these points on the board and they're actually not playing that well. And that actually turned out to be a bit of a red flag, because it turned out that they weren't playing that well. And in the end, the results, the performances weren't matching the results. And we all know what happened from there. This time around, the results, the points are backed up by performances. And you go back through the games, you could argue that they actually deserve more points. I've got a fly buzzing around in front of me here. Sorry. It's like that Breaking Bad episode. You go back through it, and Bolton on the opening day, Morsey could have won that at the death. The Barnsley game with the goal that wasn't, could have won that. 2 up. Okay, Leeds dropped against Wednesday and Plymouth, but this is proper. This has got substance behind it, and I called it very early on that they'll definitely be top 6. I mean, there's a 9-point cushion to 7th now, which is healthy. Still some questions to answer in terms of being sort of bona fide top 2 automatics, but I'm enjoying it. I think we're all enjoying it at the moment, and these type of seasons don't come along very often, and you just get a feel early on which way it's going, and just enjoying it, enjoying the ride.
Yeah, Rossi. Obviously, I've already mentioned game day. Great game day. Matty Worrell said we carry on playing like this, we're going to go up. And Mike Turbot, the Turbo Sailor, made a pledge, which I'm not going to let him forget about. He said, "I think they're going to finish top 2, and if they do, I'm going to shave my head." Now, if you've not seen Mike, he's got long hair down to his shoulders, beautiful flowing locks. And he said, "I'll do it for charity or something." So I want to jump on this. I think let's make Mike commit to this. We can do it. We can raise money for motor neurone disease research, perhaps. Marcus Stewart, obviously. And can we get more people involved? If Ipswich Town finish top 2, can we have the whole KOA posse, game day posse, as many members of the KO Army as possible, shaving their head? Watto, I thought what we could do also by way of charity is take some of this hair, craft you a lovely wig.
Yeah, combined from
Yeah,
all KOA listeners will create me a wig.
What
I'm
kind
up
of
for that.
What kind of style would you like?
Oh, I'll let that be for you to decide. What would suit me? What do you reckon?
Dreadlocks.
Done.
You're not convinced, Rossi, but
No.
I mean, clearly, the mood among the fans is that there is something special going on, isn't there?
Oh, once again, 26,000 on a Tuesday night, and this wasn't a pack out PR game either. It was a rearranged game, from last month. So 26,000, great atmosphere, and you just see the crowd. Everyone is just buzzing, positive before the game, just leading up to the game. The whole atmosphere of the crowd is just fantastic, and there's gonna be some who maybe some young kids who are going to their first game thinking, "Daddy, I want to come more. I want to go more." And yeah, it was just we have a little section outside the ground where we sort of line up, did interviews, and just seeing everyone just all happy, fist pumps, hugs, everything going on, because we just feel there's something special is happening. Of course, we've been here before and we've got carried away before, but just right now, I'm just saying we're doing it. I'm not putting anything on it. I'm not putting anything on it because we're Ipswich Town. Sometimes it happens, but do you know what? Right here, right now, it's happening. We're going up.
Okay, wow, that's massive. So you're also going to, I assume, commit to the turbo approach. Top 2.
The beard's got to go, isn't it?
No. I know charity and all that, but I don't know. It's not for me. I'm sorry. I just look stupid. Do you know one person who needs to be involved in this? And I probably won't do it. Matty Worrell was he's got long hair, but I don't know if he would go that far. But if he goes, left, or maybe he can go a bit further, win the league title. Turbo's gone top 2. Maybe if he wants to get involved, I'm sure he's going to be listening. If he's happy to put it down, we have to win the title, by a certain amount of points. But yeah,
there's time to sort this out. But the key thing is, Mike, I've noted your claim, your promise, and I've remembered it. So from here on in, where are we? Thursday, October the 6th. If Ipswich Town finish top 2, Mike Turbot will be shaving his head for charity. Note that down. We'll come back to it. Stu, by way of moving on from this game, sorry, mate, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, if anyone's watched the Town in 5 video that the club put out, which is great content, really good behind the scenes stuff. If you watch it right to the end, you see the sort of the players going into the dressing room afterwards, and the love for Kyle Edwards that we've spoken about is very clear on that video, and it's just really wholesome, and it's just such a likable, relatable group of players, which is not always the case, and that sort of club content really helps, and hopefully we sort of play our part in being able to do the odd interview with players here and there, and kind of building that bond between the players and supporters. And it's not just Edwards we talk about rooting for. It's you can go through that whole squad, just a really likable group of players that you extra want to do well, if that makes sense. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just something. I'm not going to say that they're going to go and walk the league or anything like that at the moment, but they've got a really good chance, and it's just enjoy it, because these sort of seasons, I've been doing this for a little while now, and I know that these sort of seasons don't come along very often, and I got a similar feeling around sort of October time in that playoff season. And I think winning back-to-back home games, Saturday, Tuesday, is such a powerful thing. That happened a lot, and you could tell again that was a really likable group that were really bonded, and just getting those same sort of vibes around this group, which I haven't had for a long time.
I recall actually from that season we ran a back page. I remember it vividly with McGoldrick as the main image, and the headline was something on the lines. It was a comment piece from you saying something special is happening here.
Yeah.
So there we go. Stu's spoken. By way of a great team, bonding, etc., Stu, and moving us away from this game, you're at the moment without your work husband, Andy Warren, is in Italy doing Milka Cup stuff. You obviously for the next couple of games, or Tuesday and then Saturday, you're with Mike Bacon, the big porker. Talk to me about the contrast. What's it like working with Bacon as opposed to Warren? Because Hutchie's very, very low key, very calm, very flat line. Bacon is diametrically opposite. He's a man of high emotions and big proclamations. What's it like working with him?
He's like, well, anyone who's heard the Mike Bacon intros on here will know he's frenetic, he's frantic, he's high energy, he's up and down. I know that I sent him a little text this morning showing his last two headlines of his last two comment pieces. I think it's one week he said Ipswich can not only go up, but they can be good in the Championship as well. And then this week he's told everyone to keep their feet on the ground. That's just Mike. He's up, he's down, he's all over the place. He kept turning to me and saying, "Is it back-to-back wins? It's back-to-back wins, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, Mike, they beat Portsmouth 3 days ago and you were here." He's high energy, he's high octane, and I've got him for 12 plus hours on Saturday in the car, just me and him. So that'll be fun. Me and Mike go back a long way. I love him.
Take some Haribos with you, get him even more fired up. So that's obviously happening this weekend. I think Mike's going to be on the pod next Monday. So that's something to look forward to. Kings of Anglia friends. Right then, moving on from the game, let's do a bit of mailbag, shall we? We know that when Hutchie's off, in his honour and out of respect, we don't do the song. So let's dive straight into mailbag. And I'm going to, in time-honoured fashion, we'll start with something non-football. Question comes from Carl Fuller, our esteemed Ipswich Town columnist, full of flavour, now a published author, just like Mr. Bacon. This is one that really would suit Andy. He says, "Is a bag of crushed crisps poured on top of a jacket potato acceptable? Has anyone else ever tried it?" We get quite a lot of questions around strange food combinations. When he says acceptable, acceptable as what, Carl? Acceptable as a meal, as a snack, just acceptable full stop? You got any thoughts?
I would say the question is just full stop. Not tried it, but I'm up for it. I think crisps. I love a crisp sandwich. So double carbs. I like a bit of texture, a bit of crunch to come from that. What crisps are you using?
Be very dry though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Crisp on a jacket potato. I assume there's some kind of lubricant in there, some butter or of some kind. But I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not
I think that's a given, right? The butter's involved, but I don't know. Maybe some Doritos, something like that. Something a bit sturdy.
Yeah, heavy carb load as well. I'd want some protein in there personally, but I'm not. Baked beans, bit of protein. I'm thinking more some kind of meaty filling. But anyway,
okay. For
me, I can see why it'd work because you've got the soft baked potato, haven't you? And you've got the crunchy, crisp saltiness of the crisps. As a combo, I think it's acceptable. I think it needs a bit more work, if I'm honest, as a dish. But I'm not anti it going forward, and I think that's what we're all saying. Next question. Let's do a bit of football. Graham Downey, Suey, wants to know, John Jewell's Arsenal contract is up next summer. Would you get in early and go all out to try and sign him on a permanent deal in January?
You would imagine that there'll have been some sort of discussions about first option to buy clause, which a lot of these loans have. Looks a player, doesn't he? And he looks a player with high potential. Arsenal may be thinking the same, and there may be some discussions to tie him down and maybe try him out with another loan or two. I don't know how open Arsenal would be to that, but I think if they were, Ipswich would be wanting to come to the table to talk about that. I would imagine he's been a very good addition, hasn't he, so far?
Any thoughts, Rossi? Would you like to see him a permanent member of the Town team?
I'm sure he will probably want to be playing Championship football next year. So that's what's going to happen anyway for Ipswich Town. Put it in there again. I like it. I think he's got high potential. As Stu said, I think Arsenal will look at that and go, yeah, he's a good player as well. So they don't want to see him leave for a nominal fee or whatever. I'm sure they want to tie him down, then maybe loan him out again, or maybe try to get a big profit for him. As Stu said, I think he's been a good addition. I think at first we were thinking, what are we bringing in this John Jules? Like, do we need him? But he's been a great addition, and coming off the bench and good finish, by the way, for his goal. Fair play to him.
I'm sticking with you on this one, Rossi, because you're the obvious person to answer this. There was we haven't mentioned it yet. There's a beautiful line surrounding Carl Edwards on Tuesday night. Obviously, the kickoff was put back because of traffic snarled up all around Ipswich, and Carl Edwards was one of those caught in traffic. He had to abandon his car somewhere and run to the ground. So Dan wants to know, Ross.
I think Jimmy Bullard did that back in the day, didn't he? Didn't we do a story about Jimmy sort of...
That sounds very much like something Bullard would do.
Because the players would get fined if they weren't there by a certain time. I'm sure that happened with him as well. He abandoned his car and ran.
I'd love to know as well, if you were one of those people who saw Carl Edwards running towards the stadium, let us know. Did he look stressed? Did he have a big smile on his face even when he's sprinting towards the ground trying to make kickoff? But anyway, Rossi, Dan wants to know, how far away from Portman Road would you abandon your car, I assume as a passenger, and run to the stadium to be there for a match?
Well, depends where you're abandoning it, because you can't just abandon it in the middle of a road. Like, he has to basically just park, because I know there's some roads where just chock-a-block, and you can't even sort of divert to go into like another street because you're just stuck there. But I think a lot of people nowadays, I think people just walk in because it's just easier, because I know I don't drive, but I know the one-way systems in the town is just dreadful. I don't know why whoever decided to put one-way systems in the town centre is just ridiculous, because getting around is not good. Depends on the game. Depends how important the game is. If it's like a playoff semi-final, then you banned it anywhere. But if it's just a game against, let's say Accrington, you're like, doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes.
Rossi strolls in at half time. It's only Accrington, isn't it? Didn't really need to be here.
Fine.
Yeah, nice.
Let's get the theory test started first before we start deciding where we're going to abandon your fictional car.
Let's hope that is a question on the theory test, though, Ross, because you were absolutely correct. You can't just abandon your car in the middle of the road.
There is a question when you're in a tunnel, and if you break down a tunnel, what do you do? I don't know the 4 options, but that is the one question. What would be your answer?
Just
I
abandon
need
it.
some options. Yeah.
Hazards. I think it is something about you just leave it and you just, walk to call somebody. I think it's one of the options. But I don't think that's the correct answer.
I'd need the options. I know what I would be doing in that scenario would be swearing a lot. I guess your answer is get your hazard lights on, get your little triangle, which you're going to have in your car out and 10 meters behind your car and all that kind of stuff. And make sure you're away from the traffic as much as possible. A combination of those. Stewie, Peter, now our Poland correspondent, formerly of Amsterdam. I think he's in Warsaw now. Do you have irrefutable evidence that a particular player or senior member of the backroom staff listened to the pod? For example, does Mark Ashton comment on Ross's terrible pronunciation of names? Or has Janor Janasian ever referenced the Donacents? Now, clearly, players and managers all say they don't read the newspaper, don't read anything we write, but we know that's not at all true, given some of the confrontations and things that have been said to us. How about the pod then, Stewie? We know there are people who work for Ipswich Town who listen to the pod, don't we?
Yeah, I don't know about players. It's, like you say, it's certainly not cool to reference that they consume anything sort of around the football club. No, I don't. I've never had a player say anything about it so far. Yeah, there's a couple of people who work behind the scenes that have mentioned it before. Go on, Ross.
Remember last year, famously, Sam Morsey told me that he's going to prove us wrong because I said the season was dead. It was technically dead, and if we finish 11th, but so you never know.
In your face, Morsey.
You're doing really, but Sammy, you're doing really well, my friend. Keep up the good work, and all the other players. But you never know; they may secretly listen. Just to definitely, if because I know there's a few that follow us on Instagram and stuff, and they may see a picture of themselves on the graphic. They may go, "Oh, what are they talking about me?" So you never know. But I know there's a few people at the club who do listen. Of course, Stuart Hayton, of course, he famously came up to me on Saturday and said, "Hard luck about me failing and our theory." So I big up the club secretary, and I'm sure there's a few other people somewhere listening. You never know. Just wanted to get some insight.
Everyone involved in a football club the line always is that we don't read what you write, and they all do. There's a famous story about Brian Clough insisting that he read nothing that anyone wrote about Nottingham Forest, and then the report went to his house, and there were papers everywhere, all the reports and everything. So I would say there's probably quite a few people who listen to the podcast involved in the club. Stewie, Richard Lee wants to know, when we inevitably get promoted this season, as Ross has already said, what position, if any, do you think we'll need to strengthen for Championship football? Everywhere looks so solid, it's hard to see where improvements could be made.
To that stage of the debate, are we? They're up and we're deciding where they've got to strengthen.
It's where we need bacon.
Still think the top end of the pitch, if you're talking about going up a level, you'd have to sort of... I think sort of the front three you'd be looking at. I'm not saying that that several of those players couldn't go up a level. A lot of them have played at that level before, but I think that would be an area that they would look to add to. But we're a long way from those discussions at the moment. Although behind the scenes, the recruitment team are probably, you're working so far in advance, the recruitment team will be having to think like that they'll have to have an option A and an option B depending on what level they're at. And, you work in sort of couple of windows in advance that they will have to start thinking about that fairly soon.
You're going to be all right with goalkeeper, aren't you? Christian Walton's going to be fine in the Championship. Midfield, you'd be happy with Morsey, Evans and Ball, I would say. So certainly the top end of the pitch, as you say, the goals. Defensively, Wolfenden, Edmondson, Donasian, reckon they could cut it in the Championship, Rossi?
I think so. I think every team, when they get promoted, you just need a strengthen, don't you? Because, of course, you want to keep the team that got you into the Championship. Rotherham, I think they normally try their best to keep most of the team. Of course, this year they lost Michael Smith in a week where they went to Sheffield Wednesday. And they've done it right. Of course, now Paul Warren's got a derby. But now you strengthen just a few just to improve. But, yeah, if you mentioned already Christian Walton, he's already a Championship quality goalkeeper. So we're fine there. And there's a few other players. He should be playing Championship football right now, but they're playing League One football. And hopefully they'll lead us to the Championship.
There'll be people like Aluko and Richard Keogh that will be another year older. And they've kind of... You'd have to be sort of replacing around the edges and just bolstering your numbers and replacing people like that. But the good thing is you certainly wouldn't be going up and thinking that you had to suddenly change the entire team, for sure.
Carl Day wants to know, Stewie, which would you do if your life depended on it? Either a bare knuckle fight with Ladapo, Big Fred, or allow Ross to drive you to Morecambe while you, I assume, not Ross, while you are blindfolded. I know which would be more terrifying.
Well, go on.
Well, it'd definitely be getting in the car with Ross, wouldn't it?
Do you think so? What
Absolutely.
Are we talking like now? So like this weekend without...
The worst that could happen if you had to fight Ladapo in a bare knuckle fight is you get knocked out, in which case you don't know about it. The worst that could happen with getting in a car with Ross, he drives to Morecambe, is actual death. So I'm fighting Big Fred bare knuckle every single time. When was the last time you drove a car, Ross?
It was about 2 months ago. So it's been a while.
Good.
I think I'd take Ross, to be honest. I don't want to fight Freddie. Yeah, you say the worst.
I don't think Freddie's a fighter, is he? He looks a gentle giant, Freddie. He looks just, looks friendly. He just wants to.
I'm saying worst case outcomes here.
I back because I'm in the car with Ross, so I assume that I might have Andy or Mike or others in the car with me.
Yeah.
We can talk him through it. We can coach him through it. Yeah, I don't want to fright Freddie.
What would you
Stop
rather
making
do,
us fight footballers in fictional scenarios?
Ross, would you rather get in a car now and drive to Morecambe or fight Freddie Ljungberg?
I'm a bit worried that Stu's blindfolded, just in case I take the wrong way and we missed the turning to Morecambe, and then we missed the game.
I forgot I'm blindfolded, so I can't coach him, can I?
You imagine, Stu, the blindfold just slips at one point and you realise you're driving the wrong way down the A14.
We're going down to Plymouth.
This car's just hurtling towards you and Rossi's just there with his grin on his face. Whee! It's totally normal. Right then, this is a good question from Mark Beck of the Game Day Posse. Which comedy series or sitcom do you find completely unfunny? There's an obvious answer to this for me, and it's Mrs. Brown's Boys.
Yes.
Don't get it, don't understand it. It's incredibly popular. I have no idea what kind of person watches that and finds it funny, but it's certainly not funny as far as I can see. So that would be my number one with a bullet.
Agreed. I think there's one strong contender to take that on, and that would be Miranda. Don't know if you've seen that.
Absolutely. Oh man, that's also dreadful. And again, I don't understand. But it's dreadful in a different way, isn't it? Like Mrs. Brown's Boys is just stupid. And Miranda, I think it's meant to be slightly more highbrow, isn't it? But again, neither are funny. Can them. Lorna, Roscoe wants to know, looking at the remaining fixtures for 2022, where do you think the next loss is coming? The inevitable FA Cup first round defeat aside. With the crowd being regularly over 25,000, are we going to go unbeaten at home this season? There's three questions there, I think, from Lorna. Where do you think we're going to lose next? Actually, two. When we're going to lose next, and can Town go unbeaten at home all season?
I'm literally going to say no. We are going to be unbeaten at Portland Road, but then we've also got a game on Sky this month against Derby. And I'm sorry to bring it up. It is a stupid thing, but it is a thing. It is a curse. I think Andy said it's not a curse, but I proved it against Plymouth. We lost, and there we go. Do you know what though? I think we are going to be unbeaten at home. I just feel the crowd is just on top of the players, just bringing that 12th man part of the game. I just think it can happen. I think it can happen. We'll draw a few games. We'll get frustrated a few times, just like the Cambridge game. But you know what? Unbeaten at home. Why not?
Wow. Rossi's been sipping the bacon juice, boys. He's already proclaimed that Town are up, and they're also going to be unbeaten at home. Go for it, Rossi.
But then it could all change this weekend when we lose against Morecambe. We go, I knew it. These bottle jobs. But no, I think defeat. We are going to lose again at some point this season because it's going to happen. We'll go away from home and we'll get frustrated again, and we just can't get over the line because the team just like the Plymouth game, there'll be a better team on the day against us. But why not?
When's it going to happen, Ross? Lorna wants to know.
I don't know the fixtures at the top of my head.
Well, I'll read them out. Stu, you can get involved in this as well. Morecambe away this weekend. Not going to lose that, are they? Famous last words. Then Lincoln at home. EFL Trophy don't count. Then Derby at home. Port Vale away. Ooh. Charlton away. Any of these sounding like defeats, boys? You feeling?
Nothing. I want to put my neck on the line and say they're going to lose these. Derby's the one that jumps off the page, isn't it? I think that could go either way on a Friday night in front of the Sky cameras. But where are you up to, Charlton?
Charlton, and then November. There's only 2 league fixtures in November as it stands. At home to Cheltenham, that's a win, surely. And then the Rakeem Harper derby, the dream derby.
Won't be allowed to play, but
at Exeter, I know, but it's still. He's going to be looming large over that game, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Away at Exeter. And then you're looking maybe Ipswich Fleetwood, start of December. Ipswich Peterborough, home, 10th of December. And then I guess you'd say you could go all the way to the end of December. Thursday, 29th of December at Portsmouth.
Mm.
Any of those?
When you start to read them out and you say, if I had to really say to you, I think that's a defeat. There's nothing there that that scares me at the moment. There's nothing that from what I've seen so far, that I think, I'm really worried about that fixture. But they'll lose at some point. Again, of course they will. I was just having a look at while you was reading those out, the home records from previous seasons. You have to go back to 1920. Portsmouth went unbeaten for a whole season at home, so it is doable. And they had the Fratton Park sort of the backing there, and I think that can make a real difference. And Ipswich only lost 3 at home last season in the league, which is a pretty good record. I think only Sheffield Wednesday beat that, and you would have to say they're a better team now than they were then. So it's not impossible. I think it will be in the, if it's not unbeaten at home, I think we're looking at 1 or 2 maximum, possibly.
When you say Portsmouth went unbeaten in 1920, what do you mean at this level? Because obviously there are teams who've been unbeaten at home.
As in League One, yeah. They were the last League One team to go unbeaten at home in the league.
Wow. Okay. Right, this is one for you, Stu, because you have children. Daryl, friend of the show, number 1, DJ over in America. Are Halloween costumes on the agenda this year? If so, what will you and your 2-legged or 4-legged family members be wearing? Is Halloween something you get involved in the Watson household, Stewie?
My daughter will want to kind of dress all the house up and do various arts and crafts and messy things, I'm sure. I'll probably promise to do some sort of outfit, and then it will be a last-minute supermarket sweep job.
Is trick and treating still a thing? Do kids still do that? They do.
I think so. Yeah, we're not quite at the age where we go sort of roaming around too many houses. Well, she's only 6, so we might just do a few of the neighbours. We're fairly rural people that we know.
Yeah. Halloween's the one kind of thing that I don't really get. I've never really kind of engaged with. My wife used to carve pumpkins very well, but Halloween's not really a thing for me. Rossi, am I wrong?
Yeah, of course. When you're a kid, you just want free sweets, don't you? Just knocking near your neighbours, random strangers, of course.
I bet you was an absolute terror, wasn't you, on Halloween? I can imagine you and your mates, hoods up. Yeah. Bet you had a few tricks up your sleeve as well.
Eggs at houses and and all that.
Before you'd even knocked, you just egging houses.
Yeah. Or if you there's some people like give you apples and stuff. Like, what are you doing? Like
absolute nonsense.
Nonsense, yeah. But yeah, free sweets and chocolate and all that.
We do not open the door to children on Halloween.
Oh, come on.
Not happening. That's why we've got a Ring video doorbell. Go and bother someone else. Go and bother someone else, kids.
That's mean.
It's not mean. You should be knocking on my door. Right then. 2 more questions. ITFC Memes wants to know, as Mark Heath is so anti people over 25 wearing caps. That's not true. I don't have a problem with people wearing caps. I do have a slight issue with them wearing them backwards over the age of 21. But that's a personal choice. Just my view on it. I wondered if the group had to have a hat glued to their head 24/7, what would they accept? A bowler hat for style, a woolly hat for warmth, or a fisherman's hat to keep the rain off? Stu, you've got obviously no hair, no protection up top.
Yeah.
What hat are you having glued onto your head full time?
So what? Like the whole year round? That is it?
Absolutely, your entire life. Yeah.
Probably going to have to just be a baseball cap, just because it's going to be the most versatile.
I thought you might go with a hair hat, otherwise known as a wig.
That's not a hat, though, is it? I think I would be. I mean, if that is an option, I'll take the wig. You can get some good ones these days. The KOA wig that we're going to get made up.
Absolutely, from Mr. Turbo. Rossi, what hat do you most want to have stuck to your head full time?
Baseball cap is the go-to, or this one.
Oh, the bucket hat. It's a bucket hat. What is the design on that?
It's colourful. It's actually Sasha's, but she didn't like it, so
it's yours now.
Me. Yeah, it's mine.
Bucket hats seem to be back. Whenever I'm doing the school run at the moment, a lot of primary school children all seem to be wearing the bucket hats. I don't know when and why that's happened, but
it's happening. We need a KOA bucket hat. Final question, boys, from Ben Berindle. It's a good one. Imagine McKenna suddenly left the job. Which of the 3 of you would make the best replacement? And what would your managerial styles be, including touchline attire? I think there's an obvious answer to this question in terms of who would be best to replace McKenna. And that answer is obviously Stuart Watson, because
I thought you was going to say, obviously me. I thought that's where that
Absolutely
was
not.
going.
Abs-
I'm the boss
absolute-
of you, and I'm
No.
going to be the boss of Ipswich.
Absolutely not. I do not know enough about football to be a football manager. I certainly have the style, and potentially the fiery temperament, but in terms of overall package,
I was going to back you. I was going to back you because you're used to being sort of in charge of a team. I think you'd be maybe the hands-off manager. You'd understand sort of you maybe have some of us as your assistants, but you'd be the front man. You'd be the man dealing with the press. You'd be the man dealing with unhappy players.
I'd need a very strong number two.
Bit like Harry Redknapp. You're not interested in taking training. You just stay in your office, maybe tweak your curtain from time to time, but leave all that sort of day-to-day stuff to others.
100%, that would be my style. I'd need a very strong number two, very strong tactically, certainly. Rossi, how do you think you'd cope as manager of Ipswich Town?
I'll definitely be tracksuit manager. But I'll be wanting to. I'll be getting involved in training a bit too much, and I'll probably
playing.
Yeah, I'm not playing, but in training I'll probably get. But then I'll stupidly get into a tackle and injure my star player, and I'm like, oh no. I also need a strong number two, I think, because I think tactically I'll just be going too crazy. I'll play a player out of position and go to attacking and then not thinking defensively, and it'll be all over the place. But
Rossi's first week as town manager, he runs over Sam Morsey in the car park, and his 120 grand Bentley that he's just bought.
Sorry, Skip. Yeah, you'll be fine.
How do you think you'd do as a football manager, Stu? You've obviously got the knowledge. You've got a lot of contacts in the game. You've got the style. You've got everything you need to know in terms of press liaison.
Everything apart from the fundamental skills of having any coaching badges, having done any kind of work. It just like, I'll give that a go. Probably very poorly. I'd imagine that once you get into it, there's probably not that many transferable skills. But I like the idea of Ross doing it. I think he would have a fundamental issue because straight away he can't wear Adidas. Sponsorship issues. I think that would be a red line for you, wouldn't it? So, I think I would step aside and let Ross have a go just for shits and gigs. I think that would be quite amusing.
I'd love to see Ross do some post-match interviews as a manager. I think we might get to see a different side of Rossi, the angry side of Ross, or the grumpy side.
I'll be blunt. I'm just like, we were shit.
That's what we want. You'd be great for us. I'll tell you else. He's not here, but the obvious actual choice would be Bacon, given he's formerly coach of the year. I think
full Mike Bassett, England manager.
100%. Yeah. And he'd be absolutely wonderful, wouldn't he?
Always two up front. I can guarantee you that straight away.
He'd be great with the press. He'd be Ian Holloway-esque with the press.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. Anyway, that's the end of Mailbag. Thanks for all your questions, and sorry if we haven't been able to get to every single one of them. We do see them all and do keep getting involved. It's fantastic to hear from you. Right then, boys, final part of the show is clearly the trip to Morecambe this weekend. Ipswich Town, off the back of 2 home wins, riding high in the league, now travel to rock bottom Morecambe, a side that have won 1 of their first 11 games of the season. Their star man, Cole Stockton, wanted to leave. He's been in and out of the squads, not scored at all this season. And there's also been some very interesting quotes from the keeper this morning, Stu, saying that they need to be brutal and horrible if they're going to get anything from the game with Town. God knows what he means. Essentially, it sounds like they're just going to kick Town up in the air. Is that your reading of that?
Yeah, very vague quotes after they'd lost to Accrington. He said, we've got Ipswich coming up next, and people can make of it what they want, but I know what I'm going to do to win a game of football, which immediately got I think the first response to that was the David Brent, "Oh, you're hard," reply, which is what I hoped for. That was the initial thing that I thought of as well. Derek Adams, their managers, talked about them having a traumatic time at the moment. The club is up for sale. I think they've got about 7 or 8 players injured at the moment. They had the Cole Stockton, will he, won't he go saga over the summer. He's ended up staying. Came off the bench at the weekend. I'm not quite sure what the situation is surrounding him. It's a game Ipswich should be winning, really, given everything that we've discussed. They're full of confidence, scoring goals, leading the way on a whole load of stats. Morecambe are gonna try and grind something out, aren't they? It's sort of dogs of war mentality for them at the moment in the trenches. Can they do that for 90 minutes? This again is another game that Ipswich tripped up on last season. If you remember, they absolutely dominated that first half up at Morecambe. Macaulay Bonne missed. I think that was the final nail in the coffin for Macaulay Bonne, because he missed a couple of sitters' headers from a combined total of about 5 yards out, 2 of them. But others had chances as well. Aluko, Norwood went behind after a dip in concentration, and Wes Burns snatched an equaliser late on. But yeah, again, we hope that this is another sign of Ipswich being better equipped to come through these sort of games.
Rossi, how are you feeling about it? It's obviously a long trip. I imagine you're looking forward to making that journey. But how are you feeling about the game itself?
Very different to last year, because I remember going into this game. It was our first ever trip to Morecambe since I think we had played Morecambe before, didn't we? In the cup, when we were in the Premier League. So it was the first time for a very long time since we're going there. And of course, that was Derek Adams' first game back as manager, because he left after getting promoted. Then went to Bradford City, didn't do so well there, then returned, and that was his first game back. So the Morecambe crowd were sort of, I think, positive because they got their man who got them promoted. But very different story going into this one. Town playing some really good football, playing really well. You know, their goalkeeper saying what he's just said. So it could be one of those hoop ball games, but Town are different, and hopefully another box ticked. You know, beating a team we didn't beat last year, because we drew against them twice, didn't we? At the home game, opening day, and then of course the game at their place. So no, I'm confident, and I'm hoping for a lot of goals.
Yeah, I get the feeling it might be a bit of a horrible game, given everything that's going before it. Because Hutchie's not around this week, no £1 million picks, but I've decided to withdraw from my own bank 100k and give it to you both. So this is obviously not counting towards Hutchie's £1 million picks, but you get your own 100 grand picks. Stewie, what would you like to put your money on?
I've come up with a double bet here. I'm interested to see what odds you're going to give me. What will you give me on Ipswich to have 70% possession or above, finish the game, and 20 shots on goal or above? Combination of the two, please.
So just 20 shots on goal on and off target.
20 shots on or off target, and 70+% possession.
They had like 75, wasn't it, against Cambridge, something like that?
It was actually less than 70 in the end. So if you want a bit of context there, I think it was 68 that was the finishing total. So you do well to get to finish on 70.
And you're saying 75?
70.
I'll give you plus 20 shots. I'll give you 25 to 1.
25 to 1. Okay.
You're sticking 100 grand on it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's Stewie's bet then. So 70% possession, 20 shots on goal, 100 grand at 25 to 1. Roscoe, I'm very interested to see what you're going to do with this.
I'm going to do 2 bets. I'm going to put 50 grand on one, 50 grand on another one. First bet, Freddie Ljungberg is going to score a hat trick.
Hat trick?
Why not?
Okay. I'll give you Freddie hat trick. I'll give you 40 to 1 on that.
40 to 1. Okay. And they're going to be more than 5 goals in the game.
More than 5 goals in the game. I imagine you're thinking mostly scored by Town. So
more than 5. So you're saying at least 6 goals.
Yeah. Why not?
At least 6 goals. So you get 40 to 1 for Freddie. More than 6 goals more than 5 goals. At least 6 goals in the game. I'll give you 45 to 1 on that.
Okay.
So
it's gonna be 0-0 now, isn't it?
You've cursed it now. So we've got Stu's bet is 70% possession, 20 shots, 25 to 1, 100 grand. Roscoe, you've got more than 6 goals in the game. More than 5 goals, sorry, at least 6 goals in the game. 45 to 1, 100 grand. And what was the other one? Freddie Ljungberg to score a hat trick.
Yeah.
50 grand at 40 to 1. What do we actually think the score's going to be then, Rossi? Give us a prediction.
Well, Stu said there's going to be 20 shots, so most of them are going to go in. But what I've done actually in a group chat we have for the KOA Army, I've gone 4-0. So it's not what I want in terms of my bet, but that's what I'm going for, is more sort of downplaying it a bit more now. So 4-0.
We'd take a 4-0 though, wouldn't we? Stewie, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'll take a 4-0. The reason I came up with that bet is because that's what Sheffield Wednesday did at Morecambe recently. It was a bit like the Cambridge game where they battered them and then eventually the 3 goals went in quite late. So that's why I've gone for that. But 2-0 Ipswich. Morecambe have only scored 8 goals in their 11 games so far. So I'm quietly confident of another clean sheet, and not quite as confident as Ross in terms of the number of goals, but good professional 2-0 away win.
I'll split the difference. I'll say 3-0. So 2-0, 3-0, and 4-0. We're all saying Town are going to win. Hopefully we're right. Certainly they should do. Boys, any other business before we take our leave? We've done 65 minutes or so of, I would say, a solid 7 out of 10 podcast to this point.
No other business from me.
No other business. I'm just waiting for Andy to come back and find out what he's managed to negotiate on the continent when he's back.
Absolutely. Can't wait for that. I also love the explanation, Stewie, of your bet. That's very Dr. Watson, if you don't mind me saying. Going back, looking at research, finding out what a similar team have done there, and then betting along those lines. Right then, friends. Hope you enjoyed the podcast today. Usual outro, just a reminder, please support our friends at Manscaped. Use the code KOA at manscaped.com for 20% off and free delivery on all the excellent cover, which includes now that, if you're brave enough, crop shaver razor blades to the nadgers. If you want to be really smooth down there, you can get 20% off and free delivery on that. And also, it's the last week of voting in the Football Content Awards. We're up for 2 awards, Best EFL Podcast, and also Roscoe is up for Best Creator in Women's Football. There's various ways you can vote, 3 in total. We'll share again the link. You can vote by tweeting a particular term. You can vote on their website, and you can also vote by Instagram. So if you enjoy the show, use all 3. And let's hope we lift both trophies this year. Do a double at the Football Content Awards. That would be great in Manchester in November. If you're going to the game this weekend, enjoy it. Well played. Another long journey. More than 1,000 Town fans will be there, which is tremendous. Have a great time, whatever you're doing this weekend. And we'll be back next week to break the game down with Mr. Bacon joining us. So tune in just for that.